finally know. Let's get into the draft here and have a look at how it's all going to shake out. Taliyah, a champion that wasn't on the buffs or nerfs list, and so is going to skyrocket into some prevalence, as the Gwen's still going to be banned away, this time on the blue side, quickly enough.
On the red side, I wonder if DRX will drop the Kalista ban. We just saw a lot of drops of that ban yesterday, and just ban Faker's Azir and take that away from him. I think that's a pretty easy choice you can make in a draft like this in game one. Just take that stable, easy B1 pick away from T1, and then you could even ban Xin Zhao with it. So like now we have Vi, Xin Zhao, and I feel like the Azir slots in quite nicely, especially now that Taliyah's already banned. Doran also not likely to play the Jace, as T1 will give him the freebie extra ban.
I would ban Pantheon if I was DRX. You just hope that the Neferi nerfs are going to be enough to stop Oner from playing that champion, and then just ban away Pantheon, and I think they're the most dangerous Oner picks at this point in time.
I do agree that if you were going to ban a third jungler, that would be the one. But they'll take the Azir I was suggesting instead.
Probably smarter, but I just like, I think that banning out Oner forever is just a really good idea against this team.
Such a T1 move, right? Ban the Taliyah, you get either the Victor or the Azir on blue side. They've done this so many times this season, where they just first pick a safe pick for Faker and then draft around that.
Oh dear.
Sponge looking for the Neferi. Now he's had a few very good games on this pick. They could go Neferi Jace here.
They don't need to pick the Jace. So they could, if there's something else that they feel is higher priority, they could leave understandable lock in here, and the Jace will be locked away for Doran. He is happy to play it, just hasn't had as much success on it as our other Jace players.
Even though Rumble has also been, you know, this season, we haven't been super high on the pick and where it is priority-wise. We've had a few Rumble games, you know, over the last week and a half that have been pretty insane. But the Jace is really strong into the Rumble early, have played well. And I think Doran, despite that big loss he had on the pick, is going to fly away from it. Is another Annie draft. You and I were talking about this before the show. I said it when we did the pre-show yesterday. I was like, Annie's coming back in mid lane 100% here in the LCK. Yep. And now two of our east side teams have already locked in. We saw Vikla play it yesterday and UCal likely to play it here. I suppose it still could be flex to Andil, but I think it is going to be a mid pick.
Yeah, this is absolutely huge. I love the fact that Annie is back in the meta. I just think that the champion really helps our teams that are struggling with coordination. You know, you give the Annie to a player who is very vocal. We know UCal, pretty vocal. He doesn't need to think about what he's doing with his hands, because Annie doesn't really require very many of them. And so he can just be that cheerleader that we know him for, flash tibbers, start fights, make things happen. We'll see how it goes. There is a lot of cooking, though, in this team already. A lot of mid-game power behind both the Equalizer and Tibbers combination, right? You can hold them in place, and the fact that Neferi does want to get that snowball rolling. Some support bans coming on through here is the Tahm Kench that has risen to some priority recently, going to be taken away from Keria.
Kellen play it with Diablo on the Jinx, and we know how much Keria loves to play Tahm Kench, looking for his 5,000 assists. Guma loves to play his Jinx, so they could still go Jinx Lulu in this draft if they want to, but the Xayah has been such a go-to here. This feels like such a T1 blue side game one draft in like every single metric. And sure, the Jace isn't one that you're super excited about based on Doran's performances so far this season, but you know he will play it. You know he has played it so many times in the past. It's just such a staple pick here. And yeah, you don't have the recon for this Xayah here, but there's a lot else you can still lock in. Like, you can still even play Nautilus here, and I feel like it works pretty well. Gragas is one that Keria has gone to a lot.
Kind of like the Gragas idea, being able to split up the fight, get the cow out of there, stop easy, comfortable engages from coming through. And Keria has, I mean, I remember back on DRX, you know, one of the most terrifying lanes for Defton Keria was actually the Kalista Gragas. His Gragas mechanics, I think, second only maybe to peak performance Tucson from back in the day.
Yeah.
But his support Gragas is absolutely fantastic. Theoretically, a flex, I guess.
Yeah, I was going to say, in other patches, we might be like, oh, is it Pantheon support? Is it a Gragas jungle game from Oner? But I don't think in this meta. Ooh, I love this Jhin pick here. Actually, you have such great setup, because you have the Neferi, you have the Alistar for frontline, and they're going in. The Annie is also going to be looking to lock somebody down, and the Jhin can follow up no matter where.
Who's going to be piloting them rather than anything else? And I would agree with you. I think T1 have certainly made it out like bandits as far as the mid jungle is concerned. We know jungle is going to be where our eyes are glued in this game. But this is once again the Annie experiment that we saw work yesterday. It's a powerful top side of the map and some early game strength. See how it goes. We jump into the Rift.
소환사의 협곡에 오신 것을 환영합니다.
All right, here we are, ladies and gentlemen, onto the Rift for our first match of the evening and our second of the week. T1 taking on DRX. And as the Spirit Blossom blooms, see who's going to be able to take a victory here. I'm not sure how I feel about the Rift changing all the time. It can confuse me as an old man. Well,
it is, I don't know, I think it's fun.
Yeah, no, it is fun. And I was complaining because remember back in the day we had like the Autumn Rift and like the Halloween Rift and we had the Winter Rift and stuff back before everything was updated in 2014. That was really cool and I was always calling for it to come back and now I'm like, oh yeah, but now everything looks confusing and I don't know what's going on. And so I think what I'm trying to say is that it's very difficult to please everyone.
Yeah, I think it generally is. I do like the way the fountain looks. In particular, I think it looks very nice. It feels like a completely different vibe.
Yep.
And it's a huge change from the
It makes you
theme.
know which side of the map you're on.
Yeah.
You know, like, I feel like you're way more aware of it. I know, you know, the fact that, you know, you have to walk down rather than walk up is, you know, the main difference. But the zoom-ins at the start, when we're having a look at both teams, it's clearly they're on different sides of the map.
100%. Yeah.
So I guess when you're playing the game, it doesn't actually impact that much. But when we're watching here, it certainly does.
It can be good for players who have confusion about that at the start of the game.
Yeah, like Atlas, whose brain is small.
So this will be UCal's first pick of the season, of course, on the Annie. Lazyfield did pick up a win on the Jhin when they played it last week.
Oh. Not quite going to find the barrel, but otherwise is going to be more than okay. Keria and Gumayusi just clearing out vision where they can.
It's always fun to zoom in on this lane with the rookie foreigner in Lazyfield up against, you know, Guma Keria, who have been historically one of the most successful bottom 2v2 duos of all time, but not so much this season. Has not been the same level of dominance. So exciting to see what Lazyfield might be able to try to, with Ondale's help, accomplish here. Top side, we haven't looked at it yet, but you can see Jace is naturally building a lead. That was the other thing that they opted for, the blind rumble, expecting, as you and I were, that Doran would perhaps shy away from the Jace. He is building that lead up there right now.
Yep, certainly working out. I think this is to be expected. I think even DRX were expecting this. Doran just isn't necessarily the same kind of hard carry Jace player as we move later and later into the game, right? Like, you give Zeus a Jace, for example, and he wins the game almost alone. And that's not something that you can necessarily trust Doran to do quite as consistently. As level 3 going to be hit by Gumayusi and Keria as they're continuing to put the pressure on. You can see about a wave in the lead, but about a wave is still approaching DRX, so nothing too much to worry about here.
Cal is a stun prepped here, so there's an angle to try to get Faker's flash.
Molten Shield for that extra movement speed. As Faker going to see what he can do here. Gravity Field is going to be pretty powerful as Oner coming in, Dagger's coming out, and Sponge going to be able to avoid the stun quite nicely.
Okay, Faker's still, though, fairly low here. Not sure if he'll stick around. They will need some help. Keria does come over. So is Ondale. This has suddenly turned into a bit of a 3v3 here in the mid lane.
Yep.
Faker handled it really well, though. Did not flash. Used his gravity field. Got the stun onto the Neferi. And now it's going to be Sponge heading to the top. Scuttle. And is actually being followed by Oner, in fact. So the fight will continue. You have to imagine here.
Yeah, it looks like Sponge will be able to just come on over and
He's
take that
turn into
away
a mid-gank.
quickly. Wow, the full wraparound and the ward value that UCal got there, pretty dang high.
Yeah, that was such a clever move from Oner. He is going to be seen, of course, by that ward. But that was really slick.
Yeah, really cool stuff. I actually kind of expected that he would also head over towards that top side, try and contest for the double scuttle. Not going to be greedy, just going to be opportunistic, and I absolutely love that. As Keria doesn't have a whole lot of mana, Deadly Flourish is going to help soften up the Gragas, but not too much else going to come out of this, especially with Gumayusi making his way up the lane. Keria not wanting to start anything as Rich is flashing for Doran, who will immediately respond with his own. Okay, that's not quite what I was expecting as we take our first look at the top side of the map.
Yeah, very aggressive play there from Rich, looking for the slow. Had a trading pattern, I guess, moments before off camera that would have allowed him to get that Jace low enough where a slow would have killed him. So good flash there in response from Doran. Denied him a cannon off the play.
Yeah. High value.
Otherwise, just a trade of flashes will be a trade of teleports. You can see Doran tried to stop Rich's back. I think he was successful. So slight delay there. And otherwise not going to come anything out of that. But does give both junglers a little bit more power with both flashes down in the top side. Onto lurking over here.
And it is even more scary than usual. Speaking of scary, Gumayusi taking, LazyField taking a fair bit of damage as Guma goes aggressive. But as level 6 is being approached, the Annie needs to be mentioned again. Because of course, Flash Tibbers is still exactly what it was all those years ago.
Yes. And even just a few years ago.
Yes.
And then many more years ago than like all those years ago.
Oner flashed. And Rich walked.
Nice press scrap shield.
Yep, nice work on the walking. Just out of range, you could imagine, there for Oner.
Nice attempt there, but now feeling bad about losing the flash, and Sponge is going to be seen by this ward, so nothing should come of it. Yukal gets 6.
Yep, he's going to get stunned up by this gravity field, and he's tanking an entire wave as well, so I think you're going to need to be, doesn't need to be as careful.
Faker's so safe in that last exchange with Sponge and didn't have to flash, now generated a small CS lead, got Prio, is going to come up here and challenge Sponge with Oner, playing the Victor out incredibly well.
Yep. As we'd expect for Faker on this champion, he's been so good at it so far this year.
He has
mentioned before that he does have a relatively small champion pool at the moment, but this pick has been very good for him.
Absolutely. Yukal's going to be super happy he can pick up some of this honey fruit for a dragon contest and scuttle contest. And it looks like it's just going to be the scuttle they grab for now. Yukal did buy his Boots of Lucidity, whereas Faker got some magic resistance, which will help him in this lane. Here comes Sponge, though, and they can try to dive Faker if he's greedy, but he's just simply not. Faker's positioning has been so good in this lane. He's played through so many Annie metas in the mid lane, so he's pretty familiar with how the matchup works.
Yeah, he's been playing against Annie for like well over a decade. So you could imagine probably not going to be tricked too many times. There have, of course, been some pretty big moments where Annie was in the meta. You mentioned it. I always think of Knight, you know? And it wasn't great memories.
You know, something to mention, too, is Faker has had, even though he's had these stable champions he's been drafted oftentimes, kind of pushed out of lane by a lot of different players, you know? He struggled against, most recently, Closer in that BNK series, right? But
yeah,
he's generated a pretty significant lead here. Was a lot of attention given to the mid lane by Sponge and Oner, who helped bail Faker out there, but Faker actually having a really nice start in this game. So the big bounce back, you'll have to see this after the GOAT has had some mediocre early games. Not this time.
Well, Grand Starfall going to come in here as the equalizer goes down from Rich, but I don't think he's going to survive. Does take a while for him to go down, and Doran ticking, but still has 100 health, so he is going to be A-OK. First blood going over to T1 and taking down the Rumble, a big deal here for this squad.
Yeah, just such a long engage range for the Pantheon, and Rich didn't respect it. And unfortunately barely dies there, but does end up going down, or barely doesn't get the kill back, I should say, as a fight here in mid.
Yeah, Headbutt Pole coming on through there as the Chaos Storm, or the Arcane Storm, as it is now known.
This is a really big timing, though, because the grubs spawn at 8 minutes. They're the only grubs you can get. Now they can contest, actually, with that ultimate from Faker.
All right.
Or will they? I think they should.
Let's see whether Sponge can at least lock down the next one. Kind of important here, and is going to be able to do so. Oner coming on in, and that is going to be all 3. Actually, never mind. T1 actually able to get one of them.
Yep, they got
a little
final
bit
one.
confused.
But it's still the feats of strength is 2 for 3 now, so DRX do get the objective feat of strength off of that. And having 2 grubs is pretty big. And it's like having 4 grubs, kind of. Not exactly, but similar with the new way that the grubs work on this patch. So big win here for DRX, despite the fact that Faker was able to get that wave pushed in with his Chaos Storm. Able to actually get the contest away.
Yeah, it's sort of not really how it works, but I just sort of divide the grubs in half now and just apply everything to half the number that I would have otherwise applied it to. And that helps my brain. As LazyField does find himself a nice little stun, but Doran answers really well there. And now Doran going to have to play some DDR, and look at that, side to side to side to side, and he absolutely nails it. LazyField even giving up as he just kills the wave.
This could be a trick, though. Good ward from Doran.
Yeah. Oh, Shock Blast almost just killing LazyField, and thankfully for LazyField, he walks onto Okay, there's the flash, and the answer does come through.
Oh,
There's the headbutt from Andil!
No way!
Down he goes. Oh no, Doran absolutely baited. Still does get the flash, I guess.
Oh.
But that doesn't feel good.
Oh man, it was so well handled by Doran. He avoided all of the shots. He came over there, he had the shock blast. He's like, I've got flash, I'm going in on this. And
you can understand exactly why he did what he did. I think now, in hindsight, it was a little much.
It was not necessary to commit that hard, but he almost got a kill, and had Andil not been there, he would have been like, all right, well, whatever, I walk away from this. He had TP as well to go to the bottom lane after the play, so could have just walked away, but if LazyField decides he wants to be greedy, Doran doesn't get these and, you know, doesn't flash that, then, like, he actually gets a kill. Otherwise, he gets LazyField's flash no matter what. So, could see the thought process, but the end result is not going to be on Doran's highlight reel, unfortunately.
This might, though. Let's see whether he can get some sort of outplay potential onto Rich, and the answer is no. Rich distracted by this minion wave, as he does have to run back to get it. Keria moving in. There's another headbutt poke here from Andil, but Oner is coming on over, and Keria is looking for an opportunity.
The laning stats here not looking great for DRX in this early game in terms of CS. Even though Doran died in the kind of lane swap situation up there, he is almost 20 CS up. As Yukao's going to drop a bear.
Yep, here's Tibbers. The Arcane Storm down as well, but not able to get another stun. And it is a very even trade. As, look at this, the Arcane-powered Tibbers just attacking the GOAT over and over. And that is going to be T1 locking down the Dragon. Flash pole onto 3, though. Deadly Flourish comes down. Equalizes fantastic. Featherstorm buying so much space, though, as Gumayusi looks for an opportunity with the Flash. But now it's gone a little bit too far. Or has Sponge, who goes untargetable and just says, I'm an Ascendant. He will do so. The bleed's ticking, but not ticking enough. And Protect the President is in full effect, as Gumayusi will survive.
Yukao does not have teleport, doesn't join the fight, decides to push for plates instead. I saw the angles there for DRX, but the play on the side of T1 was just too good, and now Oner shows up with his ultimate. LazyField gonna get stunned.
Yep, flash on in, as Gumayusi maybe didn't need to be there, but Deadly Flourish was definitely not gonna land, so down goes the Jhin. And the woes of DRX continue here in this early to mid game.
Yeah, it's these types of scrappy fights that T1 are so known for. They're so good at. They're so famed for. As you see the teleport coming through from Faker, and Yukao isn't able to stop it. But that's not really the big story here. The big story is Guma going in for this play here. Knows LazyField is now out of shots, and then Oner peeling with the Pantheon here. And then even when the ult comes out from Jhin, everybody's like, nope, you can't hit Guma. And he doesn't have his buttons anymore. So we kill the Nefiri and keep Guma alive. LazyField here is just like, all right, well, I guess I'll try to clear. This is very greedy. He is punished for it instantaneously. There's so much vision here as well, so that Oner knows there's no one lurking around. He also won the team fight just before, so I think he's pretty aware, but like, there was just no angle, unfortunately, for LazyField in which this was going to be okay if Oner pressed R, and he did, so the lead here for T1 starting to balloon a little bit, and that also gets the Feats of Warfare on the board.
Yeah, so not quite with Feats of Strength just yet, needing a first turret or perhaps a couple more objectives. So DRX still in with a fighting chance, I guess. But this game is really starting to feel like the power level of these players slightly varied. That's all I'm going to say. DRX not really finding too many windows. I do think that they have tools. The problem is that the power spike for this composition is sooner rather than later.
Yeah.
And T1 are already hitting their stride, and they've got a Xayah, they've got a Victor, they have got so much power. Not to mention the fact that Keria can really single out these carries from DRX and make things difficult if they want to try and deathball.
It's really hard to, play this comp when you fall too far behind because, yeah, you could still, it's very simple, like you said, and we've talked about so much with Annie, but if the Annie doesn't get the kill,
This is a special stake delivery here, as Andil is going to be providing it. T1, all three of them just around the dinner table. Deathray will be able to secure it, and I'd say that's medium rare.
Yeah, most people like to enjoy a nice steak at home that they prepare themselves or at a fancy restaurant, but Keria's changing the meta. He will deliver it from time to time.
Yeah.
LazyField, careful.
I think maybe with the fact that the cast came down first, do we call that sous vide?
I guess so, yeah.
Because it may not necessarily be warm. It's okay, teleport in. See whether Rich can find an angle here as the equalizer goes down. Keria and Doran now to walk up the red carpet, and they do just walk. And now Rich is the one that's out of position. Yukao came in, but is able to walk out. Had to invest the teleport in a play that isn't necessarily working. Let's see whether we find ourselves a stun, as it doesn't quite work. Gumayusi in trouble though, and he will just burn down. So finally they get their prize that they've been looking for oh so long. And Gumayusi does go down, but they have to trade it for this outer turret on the top side of the map. Faker will be taking that. That will secure feats of strength here for T1.
I think the thought process for T1 is while Faker doesn't have teleport, he could just call, all right, just delay the fight there. We have a Pantheon ult. He can join in instantly, and I'll get this turret. Unfortunately, Guma ended up being an unnecessary casualty, I would argue, there in this fight, but T1 were very aware that they had control of the map, and that's first brick, which means feats of strength. So Faker has just probably made this call a million years ago when the fight breaks out, and this is a very aggressive teleport angle here from the Annie, right? This means that Keria and Doran have to walk up as we're actually going to live, where Rich is...
Yeah, he's flashing on Faker. Sponge is moving in, but there's another teleport. Oner is already here. Rich is definitely dead, guys. And Sponge is just going to walk himself out of there. Did not need any professional dog walkers or anything like that. He knew exactly where to go.
Yeah, sadly we didn't get to see the end of that replay, as I really wanted to see what how Guma got cut off there. I guess he just wasn't quite able to rejoin his teammates and ended up falling, because I like the play from T1 there in the last moments. Now they made another proactive one. And yes, there was a split pushing Annie on the other side, didn't have teleport, but she's not quite able to get the turret. And first blood, that ship is our first brick has already sailed that ship. So, Doran?
Well, he is going to go to the skies, and so is Sponge. He's just dead. Doran just locks him down. That was a very strange situation, and I don't think anyone was expecting the electrocute Jace to just come out of their base, basically.
Yeah, that was that last electrocute proc probably might have made Sponge jump out of his seat a little bit, as he thought maybe he was safe there. Didn't flash, but did, of course, pop. Now Faker's looking for another turret here on the bottom side, as T1 have really just grabbed hold of this game. It doesn't look like they're going to let it go.
Yep. That's Mountain Drake going on down. They're kind of just taking everything. Cloud Soul, because it is, of course, T1. They are the most trustworthy team in the LCK when it comes to getting Cloud Souls. It's absolutely beautiful. I absolutely love it. And here towards the top side, let's have a look once again. As Doran was just tracking the doggo and then finds it.
I think he knows which camps are up. That must have been communicated, because otherwise, why would you chase in a Fury? She just walks to the top safely. He's probably just going, all right, Sponge is low, but he still wants to clear his camps before he backs. I'm going to catch him greeting. And he played it super well.
Yeah. And didn't even say anything there.
No.
Ice cold there from Doran. Eyes on the prize as T1 looking to start off this Rift Herald. Let's see whether DRX can find themselves an angle. There is Faker getting engaged on. The equalizer is down, and I think he is going to be dead. The rest of T1 now trying to escape as the Featherstorm going to get the flash out as well. Gumayusi
Blast Cone
uses all of his utility, and there is Yukao with the engage. Guma goes down after Oner. That's a lot of shutdown opportunities, and now Keria, nowhere to go, has a cask. So that might buy him some space, but the rest of them are just going to be killing Rich. These stuns from the Annie set up really, really nicely, especially in this moment.
Yeah, it's so hard to get away from this Annie when you end up losing a fight like this. And I was saying before, if DRX fall too far behind, when they do those combos, they look for the dive and somebody doesn't die, like your initial target doesn't die, you're like, uh-oh, well, our comp isn't working anymore. Faker has the shield here, survives for a really long time, but still ultimately dies. There's no one to peel. This time around, T1 aren't set up. This time around, there's no way for Oner to actually keep his carry alive, and the chase comes through. I thought they were going to blast cone over, but they played it a little bit more measured. Ando goes in first, and then it's just stun after stun here from Yukao. Got another one prepped here. And he's just like, all right, well, we're just going to keep pressing buttons, and you can't get away. This turret's not going to keep you safe. At least Keria survives, but otherwise 4 kills here across DRX. And the game that started to feel like they were just going to get pushed out of, they fight back.
Yeah, they found a huge angle there. It's only 1,000 gold now, the difference. And yes, there's some feats of strength. There's a couple of Drakes. This is, like, still a rough game state for DRX to deal with. But this is what we wanted to see out of this composition. I think it's a little bit later than what I was expecting, but better late than never, absolutely. And so we do get to see that mid-game power.
You know, if there was a slogan for Eastside, It would probably be something like, let's press R together, you know? I can see it at like the East Side Clubhouse, you know?
Yep, that's on the wall, right underneath the fish, you know? Yep.
And, I mean, it's just as simple as that, as Rich may be in trouble.
I've seen this play from Doran before, as, yeah, Rich is definitely in trouble. There isn't a teleport to come on through here, and Doran is teleporting away.
Teleport trade.
1 for 1 for the teleports. There we go.
Rich does have his own, so Faker's not going to be able to cross-map alone.
Bit of a combo comes on through there. Deadly Flourish is decent. Party cast there from the Gragas as Gumayusi's going forward, but he actually eats the bad end of that trade. Lazy Feel able to dish out a fair bit as well. DRX are not out of this game yet.
Certainly not. And what looked like a very aggressive win for Doran on the top side does kind of end up fizzling out, and they end up stabilizing that bottom fight, but it's not the fight they were looking for. Still, the issue of scaling is there, right? The Jace is still 600 gold ahead, the Victor's still 900 gold ahead, and they're both sitting on 2 items, and they're both going to continue to scale into this game. So DRX need to basically fight every objective from now on, starting with this Dragon. Cannot give it up. Otacon's on the bottom side of the map as well. It's going to be a big prize for them potentially as well, if they can pick it up or at least force a fight over it. As this comp isn't getting, it's not aging like wine, let's just say.
Yeah, and I mean, it's not terrible scaling or anything like that, but I would 100% agree with you, just because you're staring down the barrel of Vic Desire, which can make things very, very
Yeah, it just doesn't scale as well.
Yeah. There is certainly a difference in scaling options for both teams.
I mean, the let's press R together of it still works really well in the late game.
You can always press R together.
It's just that when the champions don't die when you press R together, that you're like, I pressed R, it's on cooldown, I don't know.
That's okay. Gumayusi throwing feathers around, Keria's throwing barrels around.
Lane setup here good for DRX. They have Rich in the top lane. He can TP down for the fight. He's got his equalizer back. Lazy Feel and Rich both have flash, so this fight is definitely one DRX absolutely have to play for. Cannot just simply give this dragon up.
Yep. Keria takes some poke here as the daggers do come in. Banana Brush control for both teams right now.
Rich could get a turret before he comes, but he's going to come down right now, in fact.
Lazy Feel, pretty aggressive positioning here, as I would be a little careful. Keria comes in and reminds him exactly why, but they're going to try and turn it. Andil goes in. He is traded. Actually, he doesn't even go down. The curtains have now been called. And Gumayusi, you better dance, and he doesn't get out of the last couple. Oner puts up the wall. But I think DRX have pushed them away from this dragon now and might be able to grab their first of the game.
Really nice flash there from Lazy Feel. He played the fight really well there. His ult was well angled too. Rich on the chase there, forcing Guma's ult out, and that's a dragon here for DRX. They get the kill on Keria as well. I think ideally they would have liked more kills on top of it, but I think they'll definitely take the prize. The top turret did go down anyways after Rich left.
Oh,
now Lazy Feel, no cleanse, no flash.
Lazy Feel, you're not allowed to farm the mid lane. We've spoken about this already. There's Andil looking for a bit of an angle here, but Sponge going in. Rich turns up as well. Now the real damage gets in there. As over the wall goes the doggo. And thankfully they're going to be okay, as there is the pulverize onto 2. Doran burning down, and Yukao collects the kill. Tibbers is going to lie down, but I think that is absolutely fine. You did your job, big old bear.
Yeah. Is it the bear in the bush is worth 2 in the kill feed? Is that the
Yeah,
thing?
I think that's the saying. It's kind of an old-fashioned one.
Going in here, doesn't have his ult yet. If he had his ult, I think there's a real angle. But he does not, so I think it's just going to be that trade of kills. At least they got something back, though. It looked like a big mistake from Lazy Feel, which frankly I think it was salvaged a little bit there by DRX. So another trade of kills, still only 1,000 gold. The difference between these two squads, as you watch it again here, we're going back a little bit further. This is the big fight win here as Lazy Feel cleanses the stun, then flashes away. Perfect angle on that one, and the Rumble does so much damage here. Guma has to ult, doesn't really want to, wants to help turn this fight around when Doran shows up, but they win the fight without Doran, so he just has to leave. At least he leaves with his life. What a well-played fight. And then this is just greed. A bit of a Lazy Feel from me, in fact, in terms of the diligence on farming this wave.
I think that's where the vibes were at.
Yeah, they turn it around because Rich is still here. They show up. They get Faker's teleport as well. And then we get a little bit too excited on the T1 side. Not respecting Andil, not respecting Yukal. And the bear comes down.
Yeah, bit of a flash Tibbers. You absolutely love to see it. And 2-0-3 for this Annie as well. I feel like Yukal hasn't been having a jumping out of his chair type performance so far, but has slowly and steadily just stayed in it. he's looking real good on the Annie right now. 2.5 items now completed, Shadow Flame and that Malignance already done, giving him a lot of firepower on 2 items.
Yeah, I mean, he's just kind of vibing. Like, when we saw Vikla play it yesterday, you know, he got them some big wins in the early game, but wasn't able to really pilot it outside of that later on, despite the win. But I feel like it's been pretty consistent here from Yukal, how he's playing it, found so many different angles, is getting stronger and stronger. Shadow Flame, ton of extra damage he's going to have.
Yep. I mean, the idea with Annie is to, like, use all of your buttons as often as possible, and you die first so that Tibbers goes nuts.
Yeah.
That's the plan. So having 0 numbers in the middle there is not necessarily utilizing the entirety of Annie's kit. It's like playing Cogmore and not suiciding.
Well, with the buffs to Tibbers and having the extra magic pen just flat added to the kit really helps Annie's longevity and her team fight power, because otherwise she is just kind of a stun bot, but does a lot of damage right now on this patch. So
yeah, and I was being facetious,
of course,
gentlemen. That is not how it's supposed to work.
But it can work that way, and
yeah, theoretically, yeah, it can certainly give you a little bit of a it could be worse type scenario. As this turret, not long for the world, Gumayusi able to walk up and take that one down without too much of an answer. I think one turret has been taken by DRX as well this game, Wolf, so a bit of standing gold on the map.
I think with nothing to protect or fight for topside, it was just the right play to group as 5 and look for that turret. Really no downside to it at all whatsoever, especially with no one on DRX threatening that bottom turret, which is still some standing gold they could pick up. So big win here for T1. LazyFeel is not afraid of Guma or the fact that Pantheon has his R button, but I think he should be a little bit more afraid of it.
Yeah, there are 2 deaths on LazyFeel right now, and both of them were from standing in mid lane, so I would be a little bit frightened. But he is not going to let it deter him.
He's got his Summoners back up now, so
there we go.
At least a little bit less risky to make decisions like that. But I think he probably wants to keep those Summoner spells. Now the Xayah is really big and wasn't really allowed to fight the last few big skirmishes, but I think in a real 5v5 group up where T1 are actually playing as a 5-man unit instead of, like, you know, Faker can't teleport or, you know, there's an Annie in the bush. I think the Xayah is going to do big numbers in this next fight. Same with the Victor that does have an arm guard, so Faker will have an extra life here, so to speak.
Ooh, this is looking a little scary, potentially, as Sponge hit that flip over the wall, but is otherwise going to be okay. Gumayusi continuing to farm here in this mid lane. 3 items almost done. Yeah, like you were saying, this Xayah is really going to be a problem.
Yeah, IE just got picked up here for...
Oh, that is huge.
So that's big for this fight. Like, once again, this is another fight DRX absolutely need to take, and it's really critical. The arm guard picked up here for Faker. Doran has his 3rd item locked in now as well. Like, this is a big fight.
Yeah, and this is big lethality on the Jace as well. These shock blasts going to really hurt us. That's just chain CC, and yes, he manages to go up into the Featherstorm, and that just doesn't really do anything. So Gumayusi just caught in mid lane. A little bit of what LazyFeel was experiencing is going to go over his side, and now DRX moving towards the Baron. And T1, 4 versus 5, they're going to have to go for this. I don't think they can give this up.
I don't think they can. It's going to be a really hard fight. Doran needs to hit a big shock blast, but he can't hit what he can't see. Might just have to toss it in, and he does. Hit Sponge.
Yeah, Sponge not going to be too worried about it as Yukal on a flank angle. And Tibbers is just being really frustrating. There's the equalizer as DRX look for the turn. The curtain call unanswerable right now, but the bullets aren't really landing. And Rich also getting attacked by the Baron. He's out of there. Andel's also going to be taken down. And T1, they answer the fight really nicely. Now they're looking for even more, but should they? Is the question. Oner says absolutely we should. As in goes Sponge and out he goes via the Death Chamber. As LazyFeel wanted to offer some damage back, putting some miles into the Infinity Edge that he picked up as he gets a big old shield, and Oner just going to be able to dance forward. Stun comes down, Faker finishes off the Jhin as Doran moving on over. Yukal almost in range, doesn't have flash though. As T1, DRX thought that they had an opportunity. They killed Gumayusi and things looked great, and then they bit off a little more than they could chew.
I don't know if they necessarily need to start Baron there, but critically, like, Yukal didn't use his ult on the kill on Guma in mid, as Guma's now first to respawn, is going to go over here and take the dragon by himself. So they just do this with a flash stun. He actually does commit his ultimate here. He had it back up, so I was wrong about that. My apologies, everyone. but he had his ult back up. He was sitting on the flank, and look at this setup for UCal on the side here. They just want to deny Oner entry, but Andil and Rich make the call to look for a fight at the same time while UCal is just guarding the Pantheon. I think this is where the fight really goes wrong, because you could either commit to the fight on the bottom side and not try to deny the Pantheon entry, or just deny the entry, play slow, and don't engage as the Alistar and burn the Baron and force them to come to you. They tried to kind of do everything at once there. Hold the Baron aggro, and hold the flank, and win the fight. And T1 will punish you every time, and that is just great mechanics here from Faker and Oner on the follow-up here. LazyFeel and UCal also play this very well. Oner getting a little bit greedy here, trying to use his shield to buy the time necessary to grab that kill, but still, trade up for T1, a denial of the Baron, and now back 3,000 gold in the lead.
Yeah, it's not a game-ending lead, but I think it feels right now like at any moment, if DRX lose more than 2 people, it's going to be game over. Whereas DRX, I think, have a couple more team fights to win before they have any meaningful advantage in this game. Puts T1 in a fantastic position as Keria goes for it once again. Cast just going to knock Rich into the wall, and there's nothing he could do. He gets the equalizer off, but that is all we can really say about that. Unbreakable Will now on cooldown for Andil, but he still gets taken down halfway, and this is what I was talking about. T1 now just able to get picks, translate that into full map control, and DRX are just going to fall further and further behind. And a bunch of extra stats now as this Thornbound Otacon is also going to be taken.
If they all walked into UCal where he had his Tibbers stun prepped, you know, maybe there's a world where that goes awry, but once they got a few kills and they were like, UCal's missing, he can't come to us, we have control vision on all the entry points, we could just do Otacon. It's a freebie. So you could just see how easy it is for T1 to collapse when DRX aren't fully set up. And they need to be the ones starting the fights off, setting up their CC with a Jhin following up from a different angle. When they're not the ones who are dictating the pace, it's really easy for T1 to kind of pick them apart piece by piece and take these objectives off the map. Now they have Otacon, they have Cloud Soul Point. Guma picked that one up earlier after the Baron denial, and they've got their eyes set on Baron itself, at least in terms of vision here. DRX had some really big plays in this one. They're going to need a miracle now to get back in.
I would agree. There is a very cool hat on the Annie.
I mean, the Annie is like 2-0 and 5, almost has a full set of Dark Seal, Death Cap. I mean, if he could hit a big stun or the fight goes longer.
Well, Oner's going to go in. This might be a bridge too far, as Sponge not going to get pushed away by that cask, and Andil is just holding them in place. Can Oner get over the wall? That's the question. As Gumayusi says, it does not matter. He can go where he wants because I am massive, and he absolutely is. There's the double kill for the Xayah. And Gumayusi, I think, is a little upset that he died a million times in the early stages of this game and is going to finally get his revenge.
Yeah, he did scale very well in this game, even though he was caught and focused so much in this game. There's a lot of CC, there's a lot of explosive damage here on DRX's comp, so he only gets to press R once. But in this situation, didn't need to press it at all, as they were in full control, as Oner tanked a bunch of damage, and then they won the fight. That's kind of how T1 has been winning a lot of their series this season, hasn't it? It's been Atlas. Whether it's a Xin Zhao pressing an R, Pantheon putting up a shield, that is going to be a Baron here for T1.
Oh, Doran just walks from behind LazyFeel's tower. Thankfully, he's got some Cloud Rift to try and utilize, and Doran, I don't think he's going to be too worried about that one. Never mind, they're not going to dive. Andil had just turned up, so LazyFeel will survive. Is it an overextension? That's the question, and the answer is no. Let's have a look at this fight one more time.
It looks
as this was once, this is exactly what I was talking about. T1 kills 3 people, game's kind of over.
Yeah, I mean, it's like Oner, is he really in danger? The Faker is just so tanky at this point in the game. Like, he's just so big. He's level 17. He is Victor. It's difficult to burst down in situations like this. So he's just on the flank, and then the collapse is there. Guma's huge, and he just gets to clean up. Faker denies anyone else from following up, and, you know, focusing a Pantheon, the only option DRX had, but it wasn't going to be successful. Now Oner's level 18.
Yeah, that's a 3-level lead. This Doggo not looking too hot right now. Although it is a hot dog, so it's a bit weird. Probably should be at least warm.
More like a chili dog right now.
Yeah, definitely chili. That's okay. LazyFeel, can he protect that? Oh dear. UCal not going to quite find the Tibbers angle. Kind of tells the story of this series a little bit as Grand Starfall comes in. Decent cap jack there from LazyFeel, but I don't think it's going to save his life. His spear will be avoided, and so maybe Oner is not going to be able to get that one done. Still, he survives, and they take down Rich as well. And DRX just a little too far behind, ladies and gentlemen. T1, they've scaled into this game, and they are going to utilize that to take down this Nexus here in game number 1. Lazyfield just going to have to dance away from some of these skill shots as he watches his Nexus explode. And I don't even think he's going to be able to do that because Keria decides that he's worth killing. Let's do it. T1 take down the Nexus and we'll end